Welcome to our online wine event. My name is Terry. I work in the membership and cooperative engagement team at our co-op, working hard with my team to bring you, our members, closer to the business that you own and the products that you love. Tonight's event's being recorded for those who couldn't make it, so if you prefer not to appear on the recording, you can always leave your camera off. You can also find the recordings available on our YouTube channel in case you want to watch any of it back yourself, so I'll be sure to share the details in the chat later. So tonight, it's all about our co-op Irresistible Mâcon-Village Chardonnay. So we're joined by Sarah, our resident master of wine and co-op wine buyer, as well as Jean-Marie, Silvie and Emmanuelle from Cave de Lugny, where this delicious Chardonnay comes from. Excuse me. So the running order for tonight is Sarah's going to start us off with a quick introduction to the wine. We'll then be joined by Jean-Marie, Silvie and Emmanuelle, who are calling in from Burgundy, France, where this wine comes from, with stories about how it's made and what makes it so special. As always, don't worry if you don't have a bottle yourself. There will still be lots of interesting things that we'll be covering. Following this, we'll go into the Q&A. It's your chance to ask these experts anything about what you hear about tonight, or anything wine-related in general. As we go through the event, feel free to drop your questions in the chat, and we'll be sure to pick them up and ask them on your behalf later on. When we do get to the Q&A, you'll also be invited to come off mute and ask your questions yourself if you prefer by using the hands up function. So the hands up function, it's in a different place depending on what device and browser you're using, but it should be easy enough to spot. It's like a little hand like this. Any problems finding it, let us know in the chat and we'll do our best to help. We'll be sure to let you know when the time is to use that function though, so please do wait for the Q&A. We'll end the event with a quick fire question for one lucky member on the call to win a bottle of our co-op Irresistible Mâcon-Village Chardonnay, so make sure that you're paying attention. We're hoping to be done by 8 o'clock, but if we've still got some questions to get through and people are happy to hang on, we might stick around a little bit longer. And with that, I'll now hand over to Sarah.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us this evening. I hope some of you are joining with a glass of the Mâcon-Village. If you ask people about France and wine, usually two major regions come to mind, and that's Bordeaux and Burgundy. Bordeaux, famous for its chateau, the wines are associated with the chateau. Burgundy is all about, it's not about the big houses, the big estates, it's about the vineyards, it's about all the villages and all the little crew and separate vineyards that make it an incredibly complex region. So we're going to be learning about all the different terroirs of vineyards in Burgundy and what makes it so special this evening. They also say that Bordeaux is where you make wine for the head, but Burgundy is where you make wine for the heart. And I'm joined this evening by Emmanuelle, Silvie and Jean-Marie, who have got incredible expertise in this region and are going to share their knowledge with you just now. So over to you three.
Okay. Nice meeting you. I'm very happy to explain to you our wines from Burgundy and Cave de Lugny. So let me introduce myself. I'm Jean-Marie, I'm Cave de Lugny Export Manager. On the left, Silvie, she's a Cave de Lugny Sales Manager, and Emmanuelle, he's a part of the Council of Cave de Lugny, and he has an expertise of the history of Burgundy. So he will be very happy to explain to you the history of Burgundy. But before we go deeply in details, I'm going to make you dream, and I have a small introduction of Burgundy. You can see the landscape, so feel free to start the travel.
Okay.
C'est celle-là. Oui. Tu l'as.
The Bourgogne wine region is located in the northeast quarter of France. Vines were first planted there in the 1st century AD. But to understand the history of wine growing here, you have to look much further back, to around 180 million years ago, when this area was covered by the sea. In that period, known as the Jurassic, the region's subsoil was resulting in a mix of marl and clay. Its relief was created by the collapse of the so-called Bresse Trench, caused by pressure from the Alps to the east. The subsequent effects of erosion shaped the landscape we see today. One of the most outstanding features is the Roche de Solutré. Along with its neighbor, the Roche de Vergisson, they reach a height of almost 500 meters, and stand as twin sentinels over a majestic landscape. At their feet stretch the vineyards of Puy-Fuissé, one of the most southerly of Bourgogne appellations, and the most illustrious of the Mâcon region. The Mâconnais wine region is 35 kilometers long, covering the slopes of parallel valleys oriented north-south. It is bounded by two rivers, the Grosne to the west and the Saône to the east. The influence of the nearby Cluny Abbey saw the development of wine production since the Middle Ages. Moving north, we discover a wine region with dual faces. Gradually, the grandiose landscape gives way to hillsides with wooded tops. The vines here are grown on slopes, wherever there is the right combination of soil and exposure to sunlight. Further north still, southwest of Tournus, the hills of the Mâconnais feature a series of wooded hilltops and small valleys, ideal for vine cultivation. Chardonnay is widespread in the Mâconnais, alongside Gamay. The former takes its name from the village of Chardonnay, about 30 kilometers north of the city of Mâcon.
So just to explain to you, so where we are working, it could be worse, no? It could be worse. So now we are going to explain to you, Emmanuelle will be explaining to you the history of Burgundy and this gift of nature we have regarding the soil, and also we'll go in details about Burgundy wines and the grapes, Chardonnay, of course, and we'll be explaining to you Burgundy. Emmanuelle, if you could be so kind to explain history of Burgundy.
Thank you, Jean-Marie. So, good evening, everyone. I'm Emmanuelle, and I'm in one hand, I'm a member of the wine corp of Lugny, wine cooperative of Lugny, and the other end, I studied history and geography at the university in Lyon, in France. So I can speak about this with my both hands. And this is a double speech, in fact, because I work every day in this environment. So you have seen a little screening about that, and a little screening about the south part of the Burgundy region. You have to speak about the Burgundy region, but you have to speak about Bourgogne when you speak about the wine. So that's very important to keep it in mind. Burgundy for the region and Bourgogne for the wine. Sorry to disappoint you, Jean-Marie, because in fact, of course, we have great landscapes made of limestone, as you can see in the screening, limestone, and you can see the coast and the different part of the terroir. But in fact, it's not a real gift. The terroir was built over centuries by the work of by the man's work, in fact, and we have to work with different orientations of the slopes here, but the most important one is the one which is facing to the east. I mean the sun rising. Okay.
With the maximum sun exposure.
Yeah, but the layout, the environment is more difficult in South Burgundy because we have many orientations for the vineyards. So of course, every day we work on the mix of clay and limestone, which is in fact the soil of the sea. I mean, 170 million years ago, during the Jurassic period. The Jurassic is in fact the name of the region Jura in France. Jura, in the middle of the 19th century, someone decided to call this typical type of stone Jurassic by the name of Jura.
And Jura is located on the eastern part of France, close to the Swiss border, to explain to you.
North of the Alps.
North of the Alps.
North of the Alps. And we are working every day on the different geological layers of stones, which are deposits of this Jurassic period.
Yeah.
And when you say Jurassic, you have to imagine the film Jurassic Park, of course, and you can imagine what kind of animals you can find in these landscapes so many years ago.
So Burgundy is the most typical for the wine, and so Burgundy is a surface of is a surface of 30,000 hectares, and the length between the south and the north is about 230 kilometers. Yeah, we can say that. Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, the length is important. The length is important, but it's a very little strip. In fact, very little strip, and you can imagine we are here at the north of the 45 parallel line on the planet, but you can imagine between Chablis and Mâcon all those different climates,
exactly,
and different conditions to produce. And we are here in the Mâconnais region, in the sunny part of Burgundy. The sunny part, not very far from the region of Lyon.
Yeah, and do you think there is an effect when we are located in the south of Burgundy? There's an effect for the wine, so it gives another wine profile. Yeah.
Yes, in fact, we very often here the wines are more fruity than in the north. You know, when you taste the Chablis, we always speak about the minerality of this wine, this kind of wine. And when we are here in the Mâconnais region, in this sunny region of the Mâconnais, the wines are very often more fruity.
And something very interesting. So we are talking about Mâcon-Village, and as you could see on the label, it's written down Chardonnay. So we are very proud to be in a cradle of Chardonnay, the Chardonnay grape. Could you explain to us the two main grapes in Burgundy, Pinot Noir and Chardonnay?
In fact, because for the red, the Pinot Noir, for the white, the Chardonnay are the common points.
Exactly.
For vineyard. So that's simple, but it's difficult, as you can see on the map. So we are proud here to be close to the cradle of the Chardonnay, because in fact we are close to the village of Chardonnay, which gave its name to the great variety Chardonnay in the 19th century. And in this region, the first Chardonnay was planted in the 18th century. And it's in fact the first mention Chardonnay in France, in the whole France. So that's very important. So we are here in the real cradle of Chardonnay, and we can and Burgundy is the cradle of Chardonnay. That's why you can see the statistics here. Half of the production is made of Chardonnay.
49%.
Yeah, 49%. Yeah. And we can explain it thanks to the village of Chardonnay and the original site of implantation of the Chardonnay, like Meursault, for example, or Frissay to the south, or Lugny Chardonnay.
Yeah.
And then from those villages, the Chardonnay was spread by humans, by workers in all the vineyards. But half of the production is made of Chardonnay, but you have to keep in mind the little Gamay over there, because the little Gamay is in fact less than 4% of Gamay. This is a real relic. We have still a real relic of the 19th century when the Gamay was the king, because we need a lot of red wines, and now we are specialized in the Chardonnay and the wines made of Chardonnay.
So the share between red and white grapes has moved totally between the 19th and 20th century.
Yes.
That's what you mean. And before producing perhaps more red grapes in the past and more white grapes now. And we see indeed that it's nearly half
since exactly
it's made in Burgundy with Chardonnay grapes, so it's
So we
important.
can we say so this Chardonnay from the south of Burgundy is the real and the most typical Chardonnay grape we can find.
And in fact, our vineyard is an old one.
Yeah.
So we have something here very typical, because most of our vine stocks here are over 50 years old. So this is a kind of proof.
Yeah.
Because Lugny and the cellar of Lugny was one of the first to use the Chardonnay instead of the Gamay.
Yeah.
And in fact, yes, you're right. The old Chardonnay is coming from this region, and there is an impact on the aromas.
Exactly. That's what we said before with the sun exposure and the soil. Yeah. All right. So as we explained before, we are located in the Mâcon area, and the Mâcon is located about 100 kilometers north of Lyon.
A little map.
Yeah.
So you see, so previously this is
Burgundy.
all France here. You have Paris here, Lyon is here, and Burgundy will be here. We make it bigger. You see in the north Chablis area, and Dijon, Côte de Nuit, Côte de Beaune, Côte Chalonnaise, and in the south, the Mâconnais area. So Lugny will be located just northwest of the city of Mâcon. And we zoom again. I move here. On this path is just regarding the Mâconnais area. So it's as if we were zooming.
Yeah.
And you can see here the city of Mâcon. Mâcon, as you were explaining, roughly 1 hour north of Lyon.
Yeah.
And where you start to have quite some, a lot of traffic during summer period and holiday period. And Lugny will be just here, northwest. Our vineyards will be located here, over 26 different villages, northwest of the city of Mâcon, and roughly 20 minutes south of the city of Tournu.
Yeah.
Some of you know the city of Tournu. And if we roughly 45 minutes south of Beaune.
Because Burgundy is not a natural region. This is, in fact, an historical region. And we have to keep in mind the feudal context, during the medieval period, when the France was divided into counties and duchies. And we are here in the south part of the Duchy of Bourgogne. And the Mâconnais region was an independent county. Yeah. And we are here located in a triangle, a bit of tourism activity. As you said, along the river Saône, between 3 important cities, not cities because they are too small, but 3 towns. Tournu, very famous for its abbey. Mm-hmm. Another famous town is Cluny. Another famous abbey founded in 910 AD, of course. And to the south, Mâcon, which is the historical place for wine trade. That's why you can read Mâcon on the label. That's very important if you want to understand and to sell your wine and appreciate your wine well. To explain the name of Mâcon, which is the real capital for the Mâconnais region. Mâconnais by the name of Mâcon, historical place for wine trade, a former center of the county, and a former bishopric too. Yeah. And you said that the fact that the abbeys, the bishop were very important to spread the vineyard in this countryside during the medieval period.
Mm. And just to mention also, the village of Chardonnay is located just 6 kilometers north of the village of Lugny.
Yeah.
And as Emmanuelle explained previously, is indeed, we have this statistical proof that it's the village that gave its name to the grape back to the 19th century.
Yeah.
And the village historically of Chardonnay was founded by the Roman,
This is a Gallo-Roman village, in fact, yes, more than 2,000 years old. And in fact, you have many, many villages, and you can see the list here on the slide. But Lugny, where we are here today, Lugny and Chardonnay are the most famous, in fact. Chardonnay because of its name, but the village is very unknown. But
not so well known.
Trademark is very famous. And Lugny is very famous too, because this is an historical lordship too. You can see on the label a coat of arms, and this coat of arms is in fact the one which belongs to the Lord of Lugny during the medieval period, the feudal period. You can see perhaps on my jacket this coat of arms. Of gold and blue color. So you can recognize us, and you can explain it. This is not marketing. This is a real historical coat of arms of the Lordship of Lugny. And on this label, it is only a gold one, but you can easily explain it and see the little flowers on it, which was the flagship of the symbol of the
yeah. Okay, right. So if I think now we are going to explain Cave de Lugny. We explained to you earlier Burgundy, history of Burgundy, the Chardonnay grape, the Pinot Noir grapes, and now we are going to explain a bit about Cave de Lugny, and we will be tasting the Mâcon-Village to make a small break in our presentation. So this is a presentation of Cave de Lugny.
It's just a 2 minutes video. It's quite short. But at least you can see it.
Quelle vue somptueuse, n'est-ce pas? Si vous êtes séduit par nos paysages, alors vous serez séduit par nos vins. On vous dit pourquoi?
Vous voici sur les terres de la toute première cave coopérative familiale du Mâconnais, au sud de la Bourgogne. Notre force depuis 1926, c'est d'être un collectif de producteurs référents du Mâcon-Village, experts du crément de Bourgogne, spécialistes du chardonnay.
Le vignoble, parlons-en. Au fil des saisons, nous cultivons 4 cépages. Le chardonnay, donc, qui représente 90% de nos surfaces, le pinot noir, le gamay et la ligotée.
Le tout sur 1240 hectares. En agriculture raisonnée ou bio, sélection parcellaire ou lieu-dit, 100% des exploitations sont auditées et 100% des raisins vendangés sont contrôlés à la réception.
En cave, nous avons 3 sites de vinification distincts, chacun spécialisé pour les vins blancs, les vins rouges et les vins effervescents.
La production, c'est 80% de vins tranquilles et 20% de créments de Bourgogne, soit 6,5 millions de cols environ. Tous vinifiés, élevés et mis en bouteille dans le respect des normes de sécurité alimentaire les plus exigeantes.
Nos cuveries ultramodernes, nos équipements haut de gamme protecteurs contre l'oxygène, notre capacité de stockage, tous participent à l'élaboration d'un vin pur et authentique, à la signature unique. Les créments de Bourgogne, notre fierté, vendangés à la main, vinifiés selon la méthode traditionnelle, ils sont élevés sur latte entre 12 et 60 mois.
Aujourd'hui, nos vins sont disponibles dans tous les canaux de vente et distribués dans 21 pays sur 4 continents.
Il n'y a pas de succès sans conviction. Nous sommes labellisés vignerons engagés, nous sommes une coopérative nouvelle génération, nous réinventons nos métiers pour répondre aux attentes sociétales des consommateurs.
Véritable incubateur d'idées, nous nous appuyons sur de nouvelles personnalités, curieuses et volontaires. C'est une collaboration main dans la main entre toutes les générations qui composent la cave et en fait sa richesse.
La transparence, l'éthique, l'innovation, tout ceci est notre mission au quotidien, en prenant soin de ne pas dégrader notre terre, seul véritable gage d'avenir et de durabilité.
Vous seriez tenté de nous dire quel défi pour un simple verre de vin.
Et vous auriez raison.
This is a brief explanation of Cave de Lugny. As Emmanuelle explained to you, we are in the Chardonnay cradle, and Cave de Lugny is the specialist of Chardonnay. We are the leading producer of Chardonnay grape in Burgundy. As we said before, 200 wine growers are working all together. I will be explaining to you the COP So what does that mean? On the Cave de Lugny is about 1,240 hectares covering a surface of 26 villages. We represent 4% of the total Burgundy production and about 30% of the Mâcon production. So we are very proud to export and to spread this expertise and this mancraft we have from Burgundy, and we are exporting about 6 million bottles. And United Kingdom is our best market, and we're happy to entry. We do have all the certification for the production, all the certification labels for security of the wines, such as IFS, which is the food safety, and BRC to export in the UK, so we can comply with all the safety regulation in the UK. So we are Cave de Lugny. So as I said, we are the specialist of Burgundy. Our main production is Chardonnay, covering a surface of 1,100 hectares with 88% of the production, and Pinot Noir and Gamay and Aligoté. So yeah, and as but I will be explaining to you when we are making the tasting. So we are the specialist of un-oak Chardonnay. So we are not using barrels, because we want the customer to feel the real taste of Chardonnay. I will be explaining to you deeply in details when we are making the tasting. Chardonnay producer, as I explained, we are the specialist of Chardonnay, and also we are one of the oldest cooperative sellers based in the south of Burgundy. So the company was launched in 1926. So next year will be completed 100 years. We are very proud to be one of the old cooperative seller. Briefly speaking, the cooperative seller is composed by wine growers, and everyone is part of a company. Everyone has a shop, like co-op, exactly the same in the UK, exactly the same, exactly the same.
And little familial estates.
Exactly.
That's very important, because that's not. It can be a big machine, but in fact, this is a cluster of little familial estates,
and that means so we work on the same basis. We can control from the vineyard till the glass, till the vine, till the glass. So it's very important. So shall we taste the wine?
I think that'd be great. I don't know if anybody on the call has already tried it. By all means, put your comments in the chat. I'd also be interested to know if anybody has also tried the Irresistible Chablis, because like Emmanuelle was saying, there's such a contrast of styles to think that they're made from the same grape, and you've got Chablis right up in the north, which is really lean and sort of mineral. And I always think that this wine, in contrast, for me, it's like ripe pineapple juice. It's really fruity and almost tropical. It's completely different.
Totally different. Yeah.
Remember, again, as we said, there's 230 kilometers between the north and south of Burgundy. So you understand, it's as if when you were comparing the climate in London and up to probably something like
Liverpool.
Yeah, or Birmingham. So you see, of course, the influence, and this explains the difference.
Okay.
So just move the bottle, because I think it's...
So, Jean-Marie, Sylvie, this is a Mâcon-Village. So we have many villages in the Mâconnais region.
I like to say at the end of Mâcon-Village, here on the label, there's an S, meaning that grapes of Chardonnay are always coming from different villages. That's why you have the S, because it's
a blend, in fact.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a blend. And in fact, we have here, Lugny is located in the center of the Mâconnais region with different expositions. So this is a kind of quintessence of what is the Mâcon-Village.
Exactly.
In fact, Lugny is very famous for the diversity of its landscape,
terroir also,
and
soils.
And in fact, Lugny is a bit a summary of what the Mâconnais is.
Exactly. Right. So the one we are tasting right now is vintage 2023. What can we say regarding the weather in 2023? It was a good vintage.
Yes,
right?
It's sunny.
I say, as a vine grower, I can say this is a good vintage because the yield wasn't so bad.
Exactly.
When compared with 2021, which was a half a harvest because of the frost, it was a good harvest, but also nice summer.
We can provide 2023, no problem, because we have some bottles. And in fact, the yield wasn't so bad, but this is a typical vintage where you can say the Chardonnay is okay, thanks to its quality, with the sunny weather.
Exactly.
And the warm conditions.
And you could feel, and we could feel when you smell it, and when you swirl it, you can feel many fruits, tropical fruits, citrus. So there is a huge diversity with also some flowers.
In fact, a Mâcon must be an aromatic wine.
Exactly.
And in the second time, straight in the mouth.
Exactly.
So let's try it. But you're right. The first step,
the first nose. Yeah.
first nose,
You could feel when you can see, but it's a little bit dark. See, here, it's yellow pale. So and it's not blurred. It's very limpid. It's a good quality. And when you swirl, you can feel many tropical fruits. So diversity, tropical fruits, citrus, lemon. And you can feel a bit of
Acacia flowers, and white flowers.
white flowers of the spring, not the spring, spring period,
exactly.
because we are in April, so we can feel it in the landscape. You can see all these flavors in the landscape. We have the same in the glass.
Yeah, we can taste.
So on the palate, so it's very well balanced. It's very well balanced, and you can feel there is much loyalty between what you smell and what you have in your mouth.
So first it is straight, and then a bit creamy at the end.
Exactly, and there's a bit of acidity, so it's
a bit salty,
a bit salty, yeah.
like that.
But something very interesting. You can feel the real Chardonnay aspect, a bit creamy in your mouth, and with butter taste also. That is the real character of Chardonnay. So you can when you have this character of creamy notes, it's the real aspect of Chardonnay. And so this point, so there is acidity, there is creamy, there is many tropical fruits and many huge note portfolio.
This is a very good example of 2023.
Exactly,
Yeah.
and the food and wine period is dense, So for English food,
it might be worth. Sorry. I was going to say it might be worth talking about food matches, because I know some people are asking. Like Andrew Thomas has asked, what does it pair with, and Anne was saying that she wasn't sure actually that it went very well with her fish pie for dinner, like a English fish. Yeah, because I suppose that's something with a crisper, something like Chablis, you think of oysters, seafood, but I think because this is richer and fruitier, for me it would go more with, say, a roast chicken or a cooked pork, like a fattier meat, because it has got that richness and roundness to it more than maybe a fish. I don't know what you would enjoy yourselves.
When we recommend this Mâcon-Village Irresistible, we would say pastas and some fish from rivers, because there is a good balance with acidity of the wine, so it goes well. Also some small tapas, because and for the aperitif. So we could say, because it is rich, it can go with many plates. So the food and wine pairing is huge. So there are also some examples, but
even with cooked fish also,
even
because
with
as you said, grilled fish or even a fish in sauce, for example, could also match nicely. because you have the roundness and the fact it also quite a wide palette of aromas, which will help also to face a fish which is cooked with eventually a touch of spices also. You have a touch of saltiness also with in the wine, and a nice creaminess due to the typicity of the Chardonnay grape. And also due to the malolactic fermentation, and because we do systematically on all our white wines the malolactic fermentation. So what is the malolactic fermentation? Is that the malic acid becomes the lactic acid. So the malic acid brings some notes of apple, really, and the lactic acid brings more buttery and creamy notes.
Yeah.
So that's why also you have this typical creaminess thanks to also the type of vinification we're doing in the Mâcon-Village, where we'll do the malolactic fermentation, and we'll also, during the aging in stainless steel tank, leave the wine on fine lees, which would help also to bring a little more body and structure to the wine.
To feed the wine.
Exactly.
Could you please explain what we mean with lees for our English friends?
In fact, we were speaking about the lays of the Jurassic period. In fact, the leaves are exactly the same.
Exactly the same.
If you compare geological vocabulary and enological vocabulary, that's the same. The leaves are at the bottom of the vat, and they will feed. In French, we say we have to graisser. We have to feed the wine by all the aromas contained in the
exactly. And we are and to give this also this balance, we are stirring up the lees every 3 weeks to give structure of the wine.
You can feed it.
Yeah, we can.
It's bodied.
Yeah, there's a full body. So we tasted the wine. So afterwards, if you have some questions, we'll be pleased to answer to you. And Silvie will be explaining to you the sustainable policy of the company, because it's really important to us to work on sustainable development. So we'll be explaining to you what we mean and what we want to do for all the aspects to protect the nature, to protect people, and to work on the ethic basis for all aspects. So Sylvie will be explaining to you our sustainable development.
Before I move on, so good evening everybody again. Before I move on to explaining more in details the sustainable wine growing, first, do you have any questions regarding what we explain, the region, the winery, or eventually questions regarding what we've just tested now together?
There have been a few questions coming through, so I can ask those. So from our team in Dorset, they wanted to know, I know you said half of your wine is exported. Is that reflective of total Burgundy, that basically half is exported and the rest is within France?
It really depends from one producer to another. You have some small domains who would even sell more on export markets, others who would work more in France. It really depends. But roughly, generally speaking, if we speak to Burgundy, perhaps not half, but more than a third for sure.
Yeah,
is exported, and as it's also quite, as also Emmanuelle mentioned, it's an old vineyard, which has been existing and developed since the monks with Cluny Abbey, also since the Middle Age. Of course, there's all these historical backgrounds which has been growing the knowledge of Burgundy wines throughout the world for a long time, actually. Like Bordeaux. I mean, Bordeaux has been exported into its wine in the UK for a very long time.
Yeah.
A couple of other, we don't have a long time, and I know Sharon's wants to ask a question as well. So one was about how much the alcohol changes year by year, and perhaps that ties into a question from Sheila as well about 2024 vintage and how that's affected. Obviously, we had a cooler, wetter year generally across a lot of places, and how that changed things for you.
Well, actually, between 2023 and 2024, which has not been bottled yet. So as we said previously, 2023 was a kind of classical year with nice weather in summer, one or two kind of push of heat wave, but not too much compared to if we're thinking to 2020. Which was really hot. 2019 was quite hot also.
18 also.
So we would say more normal kind of weather, which with a few not that strong, but a few heat waves with a lot of sunshine. So you can feel it in the glass.
Yeah.
In terms of alcohol level on the 2023, we're 13% alcohol. And if we think a little further and think back, for example, to the 2024 vintage, what we see which was indeed a cooler season, a cooler vintage, with some more rain in the spring, which meant also for our wine growers a lot of work in the vineyard to protect from mildew pressure.
Yeah.
So to give you an idea. They had to go into the vineyards to protect from the mildew pressure twice as much as in normal years. So it was a lot of work for them. They did a wonderful job, and the quality is there. What we see in terms of wine profile indeed is, as the weather was not as warm as in 2023, so vintage will be in terms of notes in your glass that you will be able to taste in a few months' time. You will have a wine which is a little less in terms of alcohol level, usually around, we think will be around 12.5. And also with probably more citrus notes in your glass, perhaps less the tropical fruits which will come along, and with some more expression with some minerality, and nice minerality. So it's more or less what you will be able to discover in your glass in a few months' time. So and that's where we see also the influence of the weather from one vintage to another. Of course, the idea for us is to keep some consistency from as much as possible, of course, from one vintage to another. But, we work with nature. We are not in a factory. It's not Coca-Cola, so it's not a recipe. We're working with Mother Nature. So we have to deal with all this. And so that's more or less what you will see in your glass as in terms of influence. I hope I answered your question.
And we have to cope with global warming.
Yeah, also.
Yeah.
That's a good link also for what I'll be talking about later.
I think we've got one quick question from Terry, if you want to let Sharon ask a question.
Yeah, Sharon, you should be able to unmute now, and you should be able to ask your question.
Thank you, Terry. Thank you all. So interesting. You talked about grape to glass. I wondered how long the wine is in the vat for. When you talked about stirring every 3 weeks, so how long are the grapes actually in the vat, and how long does it take from grape to glass or to production? Thank you.
Thank you.
Won't be so very at least 5 months.
Yeah.
At least 5 months.
At least 5 months. In still that.
Stainless tanks.
Stainless tanks. We are not talking about oak barrel. It's stainless steel vat.
With temperature control, stainless steel vats.
Yeah.
And indeed, at the earliest, usually, when. Depending on the year, but the Mâcon-Village, we could start to bottle it usually around April, May, something like that.
Yeah.
Change to the new vintage around April or May, give you an idea. We'll move to the 2024 a little later this year, but it's indeed usually for the first, the first bottling, but which will last, a few months' time. So which means also that when we will do a bottling later in the year, let's say in September, for example, because we have quite a large number of stainless steel vats. So when we would bottle a tank in September, which means that the wine also has been aged, the vinification is ended, but the wine has been able to age on fine lees, the lees, which are those the sediments, the pulp of the grapes also, which are at the bottom of the tanks, a little longer. So that's why also sometimes when aging, also, or when you buy a Mâcon-Village which has been bottled later in the year, you may get also a little more body structure thanks to this a little longer lees aging.
So it's the longer it is in the vat, the better it is, because it can the wine could make on itself structure because of the lees, as Sylvie explained. Yeah, the longer in the vat, the better it is. So is it clear for you? We don't hear you, madam.
I think you're back on mute.
Thank you. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Thank you. It's absolutely clear. I look forward to trying some come September.
Right.
So shall I actually speak to you regarding sustainable wine growing?
Yeah, we don't have a huge amount of time, so but I appreciate it. I know it's so knowledgeable. We could do a day on this wine, but if you could give us a bit of an overview, that'd be great.
Okay, so just to first to make it so the winery Cave de Lugny has been certified sustainable wine growing for 10 years, since more than 10 years now, end of 2014. And so what does sustainable wine growing means? We have a very short video, just again 2 minutes, but it will make it clear for you to what it means. Okay, so I'll just put the video a sec here, put it to the other side, it's easier.
Wait a minute. Let me tell you how we get there. First, it is true that we enjoy the good things in life and we love our terroirs. So, we wanted to fight to protect them. That's why we created the first French sustainable wine labeling. And naturally, it's sustainable wine growing. This certification is a great team of wine growers and cellar workers committed to a CSR approach. What is CSR? It is a corporate social responsibility. In simple words, it's integrating sustainable development goals in the company. Sustainable wine growing is a certification which includes the 3 foundations of sustainability: the environmental commitment, the social progress, and the economic sustainability. In other words, when you taste a wine from sustainable wine growing, you're absolutely sure that it has been made in the respect of the environment, because we minimize the treatments, the waste, the greenhouse gas emissions throughout the winemaking. And also because we do our utmost to preserve biodiversity in our vineyards. You're certain that this wine lends support to its region and local heritage. It gives support to its wine growers by helping the young one to settle and by taking care of the well-being of the cellar workers. And finally, we wanted a wine at a fair price, for you as for us. By the way, we're not the only one to say so. Our certification is monitored by AFNOR, the French Standardization Association. Our certification is comprehensive and balanced. It is based on ISO 26000, the international CSR standard, well known in 150 countries. Today's and tomorrow's challenges never stop questioning us, and there is no magic solution. We are constantly working to improve, eager on finding the right balance, so from the first leaf of the vine to the last drop of wine, we are moving to the best direction.
So Vigneron Engagé, the logo that you can see here, is in English translation is sustainable wine growing. So as I mentioned, it's the first French sustainability and CSR certification in the wine industry. And today it represents roughly 6,000 wine growers in France, covering so different wineries are now certified. covering 90 AOPs and 30 IGP, and roughly around 4% of the total surface of vineyards in France. In terms of, so this certification, what I think is interesting also is to give you a few examples on, okay, for you, what type of actions have you been implementing at Cave de Lugny regarding this commitment for sustainability? And those slides here will explain you in more details what it means and how we've integrated it in our everyday way of working, I would say. So to give you a few examples, for example, we've installed some solar panels on the roof of so we're lucky here because we have wide surface of roofs just because we have a big big buildings because of the space we need to vinify the wine. So we've installed solar panels, and we also in order to preserve also our biodiversity, we did an inventory of flora and fauna in our vineyards. And we've not only done this, but also in order to promote it for all the visitors, because we have a very nice wine cellar here where people can come taste and buy some wines. We've also implemented some where you can go and visit and discover all the way around the difficult, not only discover the vineyards, but also better understand, okay, what type of flora and fauna do we have in our vineyards. Another example of things that we've been implementing thanks to the certification and in our will to really commit is we use plant cover in our vineyards. This is a link also with the global warming or climate change, because the idea is that thanks to this plant cover, it will help to avoid water evaporation
and to keep humidity close to the soil. Yeah.
That also even if probably in 2024 we had less challenge with heat waves, but we've seen over the years more and more heat waves or extreme type of weather, frost, eventually hail, and I'm sure you've been seeing it also in the UK. This winter you had also very strong storms in the UK, which you haven't been used to in the past. So it's an example of we see the impact of this global change, try to adapt also.
Yeah, because many people think it's global warming, it's increase of the heat, but also during winter. We can explain it with the global warming. The Gulf Stream is disappearing, so during the winter time, sometimes it's getting cold, and we got frost and hail. So it's global warming can be cold and hot and cold. That's very important for you to understand. We are facing big challenges in the wine culture at the moment.
Also, in order to adjust and adapt to this climate change, especially when we harvest, it can happen where it can be very, very hot days. And the idea for us was also to adapt. And that's why for a few years, when needed, the idea is to start from the end of the night. So it can be from 5 a.m. Or even sometimes a little earlier, to try to pick the grapes earlier in the morning, because the grapes will be cooler, which will also help, because as you know, we need to cool down the tanks when we vinify the white wines. So harvesting cooler grapes does help. Also, another example, where you've seen in the presentation video, we also a producer of Crème en Bourgogne, and Crème en Bourgogne, because of the aging, you age the bottles in
disgorging machine. So we are
not the disgorging machine, but the fact that we are aging them laid down, and when we need to either to disgorge them after the process or to label them, it's a lot of hard work, bringing the bottle and put them on the conveyor. So with also to make easier working conditions for our workers, we've invested also in a robot, in a machine, to bring and to catch. And you've seen it in the film. I don't know if you've seen it. There was the robot picking up the bottles and carrying them to preserve the back of our workers. So it's, as we've been showing here, really a virtuous spiral for us, thanks to our sustainable certification and commitment for more than 10 years now, because it's really something which is important for us. So
and something very important regarding sustainable policy, we are trying to reduce the use of chemical treatments. So that's very important.
And to limit as much as possible the entrance, and to use also and by also being more aware of our flora and fauna environment, you can also use la lutte raisonnée. I don't know how to translate that, but sometimes also
reasonable process of we always think about how to train the vineyard the more reasonable as possible. Because we are better in observations now than in the past.
More careful, probably.
More careful. Well, we are more careful. We are more careful
because it's good for health of our wine growers. It's good for the planet.
So that's a big issue. It's a very big issue, and we are trying to work on circular economy right now. To, like, for instance,
work locally, buy our bottles from producers which would be based closer to us. We've also done our CO2 carbon footprint. Made a calculation, and the idea now is not only to have where we are now, and the idea is also try to reduce our carbon footprint in the future, and it will be also through working with trying to work as much as possible also with other local producers, whether for our labels, our capsules, our bottles. All those type of little actions will also help to reduce our carbon footprint. I hope it's if you have any questions on our sustainable certification or sustainable commitments. If it was
if anyone has anything specific on sustainability to ask. No, I think we've covered all the questions with the exception. One's just come in about how long you can store this wine for. How long would you, for the 2023, how long would you?
So you know, that's a very, very good question. It's a very good question because as we explained to you, and I think you understood, we wish we could have the maximum freshness of the wine, so you can store it for the maximum 5 years. But because we wish to get the maximum freshness with all the tropical fruits, as when I took time to explain to you when you tasted it, so the 5 years, the maximum 5 years.
Great, thank you. And then one final question from John, not sort of related to your topic, but just asking if you will be affected by the tariffs from Trump and how that will affect your business. I can imagine quite a bit, but
of course we are. Of course we are, and we have to find some solutions to make it easier. But we'll be suffering a lot about this. Yeah,
it's US is our second export market. But we have eventually a solution to propose to our good partnerships within Europe and within the UK is drink more Burgundy wines. It will help us.
Yeah, but
Yes, that's it. We'll just have to buy more here. Yep.
Yeah, but it's very tricky. It's a very tricky situation, because at the end of the day, the customer is a judge about the situation, but because of the price. So that's very, very tricky. That's very tricky.
But I think it's the same for you. I mean, you will also be affected,
Yes.
even if it's to a lesser point, because if my memory is correct, it's 10% tariff for the UK, between UK and the US. It's 20% for the rest of the EU. But and also the lack of visibility.
Yeah.
That's a problem. That's the issue. Every day it's this now start to, okay, what will be on today on the news? What's new? It starts to be a little crazy. Anyway, that's the way it is. But we will find solution. You can support French wine production and Cave de Lugny production by sharing with your friends what we've been discussing today.
So was it
I think
clear?
you've got some new fans from looking at the chats. You've got some new fans of this wine, and I know somebody, Colette from Dorset, was saying she doesn't normally like Chardonnay but likes this wine. So there you go, fantastic. We have to do a quick fire question now for a lucky member on the call to win a bottle of this wine. Yes, we mentioned it earlier about the age of the soil. From a particular era, historic era. Who can remember the age of the soil of this particular region? There you go. Straight in there for Rachel. I think was the winner there. Fantastic.
Well done, Rachel.
Congratulations, Rachel.
Yeah.
That means you listen to us. That's fantastic.
No, fantastic. Thank you very much for your presentation this evening.
It was a pleasure. And we look forward to meeting you in your nice country.
And you're of course all welcome here in our really nice Burgundy area and Mâcon area. Please feel free, if you have a chance, when you go eventually on holiday, whether in France or in other European countries, and have a chance to pass by, you're always welcome. We also have a nice wine cellar where you can stop by, discover, and eventually we also have some another touristic activity with on dit les trottinettes électriques, electrical
bikes.
not bikes,
rollers. No?
It's not rollers. Where you stand up and you do with this with your feet, but you stand up on it. Anyway, that's the way it is.
Oh, like a scooter.
Can be done.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for your time.
I think you might have some co-op members coming to visit you. That's great.
Pleasure.
And one final thing for the co-op members that are on the call. If anybody was interested, we are currently redesigning our co-op port labels, and we have a quick poll if anybody wants to vote on their favourite labels that Terry's going to pop up, and people can vote whether they like option 1, 2, or 3. Then by all means, you can. He's just adding the poll now. It'd be great to have your input.
1 second. There we go. Oops.
Lots of things.
Sorry, we did this before, and it's working completely different to how I did it before.
It's okay. We can see all the answers, so it's fine. But yeah.
Real.
Looks like number 1.
Well, there's this one. There was an option in the chat to add like a little poll, and that's disappeared now, and it's asking me to install something different. So maybe we won't use the actual poll thing, but yeah, we'll just record it in the chat. Rachel, I know you're hosting people in the room, so if you can do a bit of a hands up and drop me a message for this one as well, that'd be quite helpful. So for this one, so if we stop voting on this one now, we do have another one, Sarah. So do you want to introduce this one?
Voting on the Ruby port, and we also have the Tawny port, which Terry will put up as well, and let us know which one of those you prefer. Fantastic. It's great to have to help us make decisions. Thank you.
Well. Right, Sarah, is there anything else? Are you happy for me to wrap up?
No, happy to wrap up. Thank you very much to the three of you. Thank you. It's
Brilliant.
really interesting, and it's a shame we haven't got much longer to talk, because I think it would be, we could talk for many hours. Really interesting. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
So I'm just going to end with saying that thank you everyone for coming tonight. Our next online wine event is going to be on Wednesday, the 7th of May from 7 p.m. And we're going to be covering our Co-op Fairtrade Don David Malbec and the Co-op Fairtrade Don David Cabernet. I'll drop the link in the chat now, but also keep an eye out on your Co-op membership emails and on the Co-op app later this month for more details. So I'm going to pop that in now. So it's live if you do want to book your place on the next one. That's not what I've not copied the right thing. Sorry. Where is it? There it is. Sorry about that. The poll threw me off, everyone. Sorry. There we go. Brill. So we'll leave the chat open for another minute or so, in case there's anything that you want to, any links that you want to grab out the chat. I'm also going to paste the link to the YouTube channel where you can watch all of our previous online events, and it'll be where the recording for tonight's event will be later on this week. But thanks again, everyone, for spending an hour with us learning about this fantastic wine. And hope to see you at a future event.
Yep.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
See you.
Bye-bye.
Au revoir.
Au revoir.
Bonsoir.
Au revoir.
Bonne soirée.